First of all, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us here today, those that are live and those that are watching the stream after the fact. We are going to be presenting you with a bunch of updates related to Monaco Market, excuse CollectCoin, what we've been working on, going over a bunch of things related to the development, our partnerships, the launch updates, and last week was mainnet in New York City, and we were very present, met a lot of interesting folks, and kind of want to shed some light in what some new partnerships look like. So I guess we can maybe start there. My name is Paul. I'm the Chief Business Officer at Monaco Market and CollectCoin. Joining me is Nick, who runs product, design, business development, and just really helps everything look as great as it does. So getting started with last week, it was mainnet. I think some of the folks here may have been I actually met someone that when I told them that we were running Monaco Market, they mentioned that that's you. And I said, well, if you know Monaco Market, you probably would have seen me by now. So we're definitely reaching a point where people are hearing about us and they're interested to see what we're doing, how we've continued to develop the platform, and just overall updates. We've got more venture capital interest. If there's one thing that I noticed this past week is that there are more investors, hedge funds, VCs, early Bitcoin guys, early ETH guys, or early guys altogether, that are looking for their next big investment. So the consequence of some of those interactions last week is I'm having some meetings with some folks this week to kind of just shed some light about what it is that we're working on, what we're building, what our intentions are, how we plan on scaling this, and potentially getting some larger partners with us. As we get closer to launch, I think that's going to be important to have these kinds of partners because, look, we're not in a bull market anymore where raising capital is like crazy easy. It's a little bit harder. In those rooms, I noticed that there aren't a lot of these not so serious projects. The projects that I've spoken to, they have legs. There's definitely a maturity that's being established in crypto in general, whether it's NFTs or tokenization of different asset classes, whether it's us with the collectibles, or if it's people that are trying to do things in real estate or other services. It's really interesting and really exciting to see how the maturity is kind of occurring and the investment partners are looking for these types of projects. So we're going to have those conversations with the VCs. Potentially you'll see some updates on Twitter, here in the Telegram about what those partnerships look like. At this point, most of the partnerships, we're not just looking for money because we've been offered quite a bit of money so far. I think it's more about having the right strategic partner that can kind of help us scale this, that has experience potentially in the kinds of items we're dealing with, or there's one VC that specifically deals with like luxury types of items that it's interested in. I'm having a meeting with them later this week. So making sure that our interests are really dialed in is going to be very important. Additionally, as we seek to scale, we're going to need additional developers. I've seen in the chat some folks saying, hey, I'm a Solidity dev looking for some work or what have you. And so far, that hasn't exactly worked out where we're able to screen these folks. So meeting some people in real life, people that either live in New York, live in the United States, or just come with references, it's been really helpful. So our intention is to expand the team with some of these contacts that we've met. And again, I encourage anyone that's listening, if you are a developer, if you know Solidity, that's really helpful. If you don't, that's okay. We have other needs as well. There's going to be a tremendous demand in terms of our development. I'll get into some updates about that a little bit later. And also, some of the contacts that I met, we were able to establish some really great partnerships. So one of the challenges that I know a lot of people have brought to my attention is, look, you're on the Binance Smart Chain or the BNB chain now, and folks in America it's not as easy for them to be able to kind of buy BNB or BUSD or even CollectCoin. You have to have a certain level of acumen. So what we're going to be doing is We found a cross-chain payment solution provider that I don't know how public they are just yet. We'll be announcing this pretty soon, exactly what the nature of the partnership is, but they will allow us to essentially accept almost any cryptocurrency, um, and they will do the conversions live on our website, so you don't have to leave and do a bunch of swaps. It'll be directly integrated on our website. So if you have SHIB, if you have XRP, whatever you got, and if you want to buy something on our platform, you'll be able to right there swap your tokens. And the fees are, if it's on the same chain, it's 1%. If it's on a different chain, it's 2%. And if they're obviously, if you have the right token, then there's obviously no extra fee. So we're really excited about that partnership. We should be announcing that very, very shortly. Just making sure that everything works as planned. And their solution uses more quantitative strategies than just like a simple swap. And we'll provide some insight about that. I might even try to get one of the guys from that company to join me in announcing the partnership, as this is going to be a big one. So much of this is removing barriers so that everyone can come on and trade. Additionally, we've got some interest from some centralized exchanges. Every single day, I get somebody who's a listing coordinator or a listing agent from every exchange under the sun. But I actually went to some events that were sponsored by these exchanges, and I got to meet the real people. And there are a few exchanges that are interested in listing our token and even listing our NFTs, which I found to be very interesting. We got to look at how that kind of partnership would look like. Because look, our NFTs being elsewhere could provide, greater reach, but make no mistake, redeeming your NFTs will only happen on the Monaco market. We're not going to farm that out to anybody. So much of this is us taking the responsibility of making sure that when you decide that you want this item, that you receive it and we send it to you. I noticed that in the chat a couple of days ago, someone was asking me, like, what do you really have the items? Can't you just like mint an NFT for anything you want and then have people trading it? And you know what? In theory, you're absolutely right. But the thing that makes us different from some of these other platforms is at any given time, you can check us. You can redeem your NFT and then see what happens. What will likely happen is you got to provide some address and then we're going to send it to you. That's just the way that it goes. Part of what we're doing here is to provide a safe mechanism for people to be able to trade these items, but also to purchase them if you should so desire. So every single item that we have is every single NFT that we have is backed by the actual item that at any time you can request, a redemption for if you own the NFT, and we'll send it to you. So there should not be, any doubt there. We're not going to launch the marketplace with a million items. That's just one, we want to make sure we have a managed kind of launch, and two, we want to make sure that again, there's complete trust. Every single item that we have is going to be, vaulted. It's going to be secure, and it's going to be something special, something interesting, and above all, something with investment quality. Additionally, we have some authentication partners that we've kind of worked out some let's say like enterprise level authentications. We've been kind of figuring out who to deal with these last couple of months, to be honest with you guys, going through some tests. And we have found that the authentication partners that have kind of a manual human element tend to be better in terms of accuracy as well as just their throughput, so while there are some authentication partners that use automation that are interested in working with us, we're going to take the approach of working with companies that already have like a human element. So for example, in the sneaker, streetwear, potentially handbag space, there's Legit Grails and Real Authentication. And then the art space, there's Miarto. And additionally, some of these companies are even participating in some of the helping us with the curation. So we're really excited to really lean into these relationships, and make sure that every item has at least one additional layer of verification beyond what the sellers are giving us when they send us the items. So we'll be releasing more content around the authenticators, kind of what you can expect, what, kind of tell the story, because some people know these authenticators and some people don't. But we just want to make sure that you guys understand that we're, from the items to the partners, there's a lot of curation that is going on here to make sure that when you buy something, it is exactly what we say that it is. Now, bringing on the right partners to kind of help us is going to be really important. We brought on a couple advisors. One will be bringing on, you'll be seeing him on the website. He's a Y Combinator alum, very strong network. Someone here in New York, that's kind of a lot of the folks that we're talking to right now. Are the crypto scene in New York is really burgeoning right now, and I'm able to meet a lot of folks, and it's really helping to facilitate real business, because every single day, we get inundated with messages on Telegram, and these scams are pretty complex. They're very sophisticated. These guys have some really good media materials, and their websites are really good clones. But look, I can tell, if your website was registered last year and the business has been around for 20 years, we're going to figure this out. It's just, unfortunately, a little bit of a time suck. So that's why the in-person business tends to be, a little bit better for us at this point. Additionally, we were bringing on a legal advisor that is going to help us kind of prepare for regulatory scrutiny. We noticed that here in New York, the Attorney General is suing Nexo as of yesterday. There is still a lot of scrutiny that is going on in the space in the States, and we want to make sure that we're prepared for it, because we don't intend to run from regulatory scrutiny. We don't run from the rules. We want to lean into it, potentially help to shape what these rules look like, because sometimes these bodies, they don't understand what this is, and they just have like a presupposition of what crypto is and the use cases, everything. And unfortunately, a lot of scammers are using it. So it becomes like seen as something bad, when in actuality, anything is bad if bad people are using it. So just kind of working with those individuals. I happen to know some of these, parties, in New York. I know a few politicians. So just trying to lean into that and just make sure that as they create task forces and as they, try to rein in a lot of the fraud that's occurring, they don't rein in some of the growth that's occurring as well. Now, other things to talk about, we're going to be having more initiatives to kind of drive engagement with the community this last month, especially between the conferences, between, a bunch of the just the calls and the meetings and everything. Some of the contests got put to the wayside. We're going to make sure that we have enough time. And additionally, I'd like to bring on some of the sellers themselves or some of the authenticators to kind of help judge these contests. So it's, I have a little bit of expertise, and you guys have seen me kind of talk about the items, but I want to potentially bring on someone else with me, where we're going to talk about the items and kind of give you guys more insight about what it is that's being shared. So instead of me just doing research after the fact, these people are going to know right away. So we'll be able to kind of, one, expose you guys to who those partners are, and two, to give you guys more education about what it is that's so important about some of these items versus other items. Now, I also noticed that during the last contest, someone contacted me to tell me that one of the cards that was submitted, it was actually like a counterfeit card and based on the images. So I see that you guys are so discerning. To be honest with you guys, in that instance, again, just looking at the items on the computer for submissions, you don't know. And that's why we do the additional layer of verification. So you can know that when an item is sent to us and we go through those verifications, that everything is going to be above board. Also, are going to we'll probably release a little bit of a calendar of what these events look like and just give a little bit more time because I think that we were a little too aggressive with the last one, especially considering all the different things that are going on. And we'll share some information about that, again, on here, on Twitter, and on the announcement channel. Now, moving into the development, we are finally nearing kind of the end of the MVP development, not the development of the entire application, because that's going to be ongoing for a long time. But at some point, we kind of have to say, all right, this is the MVP, and let's begin the auditing and the penetration testing. This entire time, this last month or maybe 2 months, we've been interviewing auditing and penetration testing companies that are both Web3 native and, kind of more traditional Web2 companies. And we're pretty sure what our strategy is going to be, using obviously like a Certik or a Hacken for the auditing, and maybe some pen testing, but then also an additional traditional, cybersecurity company that'll kind of help us with aligning ourselves to compliance standards and best practices. And then speaking to some of the development, maybe Nick, you can kind of give us an idea of what we can look out for.
Yeah, I mean, Paul jumped the gun a little bit. He is right, Paul. You are right in the sense that we're primarily focusing on our next kind of more of our last phase before the actual launch, like the penetration testing, the cybersecurity, making sure that we're safe, the audits, et cetera, of our contracts. But we are still finishing up a little bit of some of the kind of minutia of the product. I'll give you an example. We're kind of trying to really fulfill the overall redemption side. We still have some schemes and kind of some of the flows around the shipment providers and just kind of what that looks like, making sure that we're designing and building those tools right. To some of the front end stuff still that's remaining, but they're really minor, like Paul's saying. We're pretty close to wrapping a lot of the app design and the development side, so which is really exciting. And then I guess to add to that, I don't know if Paul, this is the right time, we could kind of also highlight a little bit of kind of our strategy around the launch itself, which there's going to be multiple sort of efforts at the same time. One being, we felt that our overall image of our brand and just who we are as far as Monaco Market really needs to kind of be elevated. The brand needs to speak with just a kind of a new voice, or maybe a little bit more of a fresher look and feel. So with all that said, we're kind of doing a big redesign of our brand of the Monaco Market. So what you'll see is the app will pretty much be consistent to, I think, what we've mostly shared. So the app will stay for the most part the same, but the overall general communication, our branding, the website design, you're going to see a big change. It's going to look far more advanced, kind of modern, a little bit more fun, colorful, and really just trying to raise the bar for our company and organization. So a part of that obviously is to tell our story better. You're going to see far more content and more information about what we're doing and what the process is like, both sides, dealer and buyer side, and as well as just being able to provide more support around information. We're going to have a full-on elaborate corporate website for Monaco Market, so that is actively being designed and developed right now as we speak. And so there's a ton of stuff going on in the background that you guys probably don't hear us talking a lot about, but the stuff is moving, and you'll see that once we get closer to launch. So maybe what we can share, a little bit of a teaser we have of the video, which will kind of lead to our rebrand.
That's just a little teaser about kind of what the branding, the look and the feel is going to look like. And, it's not going to be so dark like it is right now. It's going to feel fresh and kind of a little bit more upbeat. And yeah, it's just
modern, really modern. It's just we're really trying to kind of elevate the brand and stand out even more than we currently do, just because the space is going to continue to be more competitive, and we want to really kind of stand out strongly, especially as we get into some of the kind of growing our company and potential investor conversations. We really want to just elevate our position. So,
Absolutely. And I guess that'll bring us to kind of some additional things that we're working on. So as we close the development of the MVP, we're going to continue to build additional features that we're going to be rolling out shortly after the launch. The MVP itself, in my opinion, is going to be a little bit minimal, but part of the idea is just to make sure that when we launch, if there's any problem, if there's anything we need to be mindful of, we're made aware of it before things get too robust, and then there's a lot of things that are going on. Cybersecurity is something that obviously we prioritize tremendously given everything that's happened. And we're really taking a deliberate approach to how we launch and, identifying any vulnerabilities that may happen. But we're also being mindful of how can we make sure that there's a lot of transaction volume so that those individuals that are staking are going to be able to, collect a reasonable amount of commissions essentially. So we're working on creating some incentivized trading mechanisms, both in terms of individuals that just want to buy and sell items, and also for those sellers, initially incentivizing them, one, to send us the good stuff, and then also to not price it at some crazy number where it just sits in the vault and we're just storing things. So we'll be releasing some information, kind of what those structures look like. We're sort of doing some beta kind of communication with some of the sellers to ask them, what do you think about this? For example, what if for the first 30 days that something, someone is listing something, they're incentivized to vault the item with us, and then maybe the next 30 days that incentive starts to get worn down, so that there's a 60-day sales cycle where essentially they can do it for free. And a lot of the types of items that we're offering, a 60-day sales cycle, if you're offering the item at the right price, it should sell. Now, don't get me wrong, some of the really expensive stuff, 10,000, 20,000, God, we have some that's $250,000. They may take a little bit longer, but they're really cool items. So we're going to see what happens. But again, much of the feedback that we've gotten has been coming from the beta testing, both in terms of the users and some of the dealers. Me having conversations with the dealers ourselves and asking them kind of, what the sales cycles, who is the typical individuals that are buying these things. Some of them are individuals in crypto already, and they're just people that are, off ramping and then buying with fiat, instead of them accepting crypto. Our solution, this white glove kind of experience where we really onboard these Web2 guys and provide them all the services they need to offer these items to people that are, obviously more Web3 native. It's what really separates us. And while there is an element of centralization and that we're holding the items and you have to do that. I see other companies that are trying to do a more decentralized way about this. And I'll tell you that these types of items that we're dealing with have such high fraud risk. I don't think some of these guys understand that yet, that you can't just get anybody to be a vault. There are a lot of things that can go wrong in this business, and you have to do everything that you can to protect. Look, we have to do what we can to protect the Monaco market, but to protect the individuals that own the NFTs as well. When you redeem that item and it looks like this, you better get it and it looks like that. So there's definitely a priority that we're placing on making sure that we have the right individuals that are, working with us, and they have the right items as well. Now, also, one other thing that we're working on is to natively accept additional stablecoins. I did mention how we're going to have this cross-chain payment solution that's going to kind of make it easy, but we want to be able to accept essentially as many stablecoins that are on the BNB chain as possible. We'll include some literature and maybe some videos about how you can, let's say you have USDC and you want it to be on the BNB chain, we'll kind of explain how to do that. It's not terribly difficult. And then you'll be able to transact that way. But so much of what we're doing and the things that we're building are all about removing barriers so that anyone that wants to buy these things are going to easily be able to do so. Um, and additionally, some other projects have expressed desire in kind of having our NFTs in like a sub kind of marketplace, which is something that we're talking to them about. Like, what does that look like? We want to make sure that, look, we have very low fees. If our NFTs are on your platform, you don't just get to start charging like crazy fees, and then, you know, it's so much about making sure that we protect our community, whether they're in the CollectCoin group or whether they are, in some other projects group, just making sure that a Monaco Market NFT represents trust, represents something that generally should appreciate in value, or at the very least won't dump the way that the market has. Um, and especially with some of the categories, I know the watch guys have been in touch with me and telling me like, "Oh, have you seen like what's happened to this one or that one?" We've been observing that, me especially, and I've been talking to some of these guys, and what can we buy? What can we offer? And there are still some items that they didn't go crazy with the hype last year. They've just been slowly going up. So we're going to make sure we're prioritizing those items and just make sure that we're not offering things that are overvalued in the current market. But, we will have some really cool things. Um, so I guess that brings us finally to the launch. What are our next steps? And what does it look like in terms of when the launch is going to be? Because if I get another message saying when launch, I get it. I understand. So we're nearing the end of the development. Um, we've already been interviewing the auditing and the penetration testing guys to get a sense of one, can you start right away? What does your calendar look like? A lot of these guys for auditing, auditing shouldn't take terribly long time. Um, the penetration testing, that is probably a different story because they'll do the testing, they'll give us a report, we'll probably have to make some changes, and um, then they'll kind of review it, and then we'll be ready for launch. So the anticipation for that will take about 6 to 8 weeks for those processes. And again, that's with two penetration testing companies, an auditing firm, and we're only going to use kind of known guys, or we'll be able to kind of give you guys an idea of who we're working with. Obviously, we worked with Certik in the past. During the mainnet, I got a chance to meet Mikhail. I don't know if any of you guys know who he is. He's over at Certik, fantastic guy that really helps other founders meet each other and has been a great source of leads for us to connect with other projects as well. So we're moving pretty close. We're creating the repository so they can kind of review the code, getting into the numbers because this stuff is not cheap, and we're doing everything we can to make sure that the costs are justified because you guys as investors, I treat your money probably, better than I treat my own money. I make sure that every dollar that we spend is spent appropriately, it's needed to be spent, and that, we are marching toward the eventual launch. Um, and also, while that testing is going on, development doesn't stop. Like we have to be continuing to develop the additional features because the expectation is we roll out the MVP and then shortly after that, there are features, that are going to be, we're releasing this feature, we're releasing that feature, and we have a bunch of things planned. It's just about making sure that we build them properly and that before they're released, we make sure there's some kind of like security check as well. So this is going to be an ongoing process, whomever our partners are, to just make sure that we release an update and that's not like us releasing an update that leads to an exploit. We've taken a lot of steps in terms of talking to our cybersecurity partners to make sure that we're not building in a way that kind of opens us up for potential, you know, exploits, potential hacks. Every day I read about another project that's getting hacked for millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars. And I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that doesn't happen to us. So with that said, I mean, we're targeting toward the end of the year for the launch. As we get closer, like when development is done, we're gonna, you know, let everybody know that penetration testing is starting. We're gonna be working with these guys. And just obviously, as we get the final reports, we'll be sharing them with Certik. They share it anyway. So I guess that gives you guys kind of a broad idea of everything that we've been working on so far. And I would open this up potentially to some questions. So looking at the chat, I see that Sebastian has asked, how does this benefit CollectCoin? Yes, so that's a great question. If you're staking CollectCoin, you'll be able to, we'll be able to have more transaction volume, and then the staking rewards will be greater. Again, for the marketplace, you want to make sure that we're able to accommodate everybody. And, if someone is able to buy an item that generates transaction fees and that benefits the holders of CollectCoin, we want to have as many benefits as possible built into the token. And that's not just your ability to spend on the platform, but benefits for having it, as well as, it growing with the marketplace itself. So even though, allowing more tokens to transact, it's not so much that we're trying to make it so that, like, oh, you can only buy with CollectCoin, and I think that that would be a misstep, because it's not as easy yet to get CollectCoin. When we get on some centralized exchanges, it's going to be a lot easier for individuals to buy our token and to be able to transact. And as the volume, excuse me, the market cap goes up, there'll be perhaps less volatility. You don't want to buy $10,000 of CollectCoin and you go to buy something and then it's worth 9,800, and then you're not able to do it. So, leaning into stable coins as a mode for individuals to be able to purchase things is, I think, going to encourage trade. And two, again, just continuing to bolster up the options for what CollectCoin can do. We're definitely going to be recording the AMA. The recording is happening right now. It will be on our YouTube. I guess with that said, is there anyone here that wants to ask a question? You could raise your hand, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you guys may have. Mark, you're doing a fantastic job. Thank you so much for summarizing everything. We'll probably release some tweets, kind of like announce, like I mentioned some names of some companies that we're dealing with. We'll probably just release some tweets like, Authenticator Spotlight, and just show who they are. I would love it if I could do, a 5 or 10 minute video with some of the either the business development guys or the founders of some of these companies, so they can kind of introduce themselves and share with you guys what their expertise is. Because I don't know how many of you guys know who these guys are, but I'll tell you, they do volume. Every single company that we're dealing with has got to be able to do like at least 10,000 items a month in throughput. And that's not to say that we're going to give them 10,000 items in our first month, but just we need to know that we can scale with these individuals. Some companies, unfortunately, we couldn't deal with them because it's like 2 people, authenticating. And even though they're good, you worry about, is this the right partner for scale? And then also having a big enough company where they can give us a good deal. Let's face it, we're not paying $50 in authentication. We're not, but we're buying hundreds, if not thousands of authentications a month. So we get significantly lower pricing that makes this all possible. Let's see, I see some folks typing. And yeah, see if anybody's raising their hand. Any questions? See more familiar faces. Great to see you guys. Yes, absolutely. So the plan to continue to keep the community engaged, definitely have to have more things related to more like contests and initiatives. We're gonna kind of talk about this. Get a little bit more active on Twitter, and participating in there. Like, again, I wish I could do it, but I've seen what happens when you just like go down a Twitter rabbit hole. An hour goes by, and I mean, our days are so jammed. I mean, I have calls from 8:30 to 7, or we're working on mean, there's so many things that we're working on, and you know, if there's one thing that we are, it's really cost effective. You know, if it means paying somebody or doing it ourselves, if we can do it, we will do it ourselves and just grind the hours. So there is still a lot that we have to do for the launch. Well, not really a lot, but there's still a bunch of things that we have to do. But I'm 100% confident that when the Monaco market launches, the new websites are going to be ready, and oof, it looks good. It looks good. Nick has done a phenomenal job. I mean, I am so impressed. And also, and this is a combination of a lot of folks. You know, we have design support, we have copy support, we have so many individuals really helping us so much.
Yeah, I mean, this we couldn't do this without our team for sure, and I think that's kind of been part of the testament is we've had a really strong collaborative environment with our team, and we're just cranking away. And like Paul said, I think with what we're pulling off at the quality of this website redesign, not to like oversell it, but I think you guys will be pretty impressed the fact that we did this all in house. So just hang tight.
Absolutely. You know, it's really the strength of the team that we've been able to kind of do everything that we've done with so many things that have happened, from the early days to now, and it really has been the passion of the community that has helped to spur us on. And then last week, just again talking to VCs that look, some of them don't like what we're doing. I'm not gonna lie, they're like, oh, don't you feel like that's a logistics nightmare? And I'm like, because they're so used to dealing with all these digital assets. But this is my background. This is what I've done for years and years and years. So I don't think, look, is it easy? No. There's a reason why a lot of folks wouldn't undertake this. There's a reason why I feel some other guys are moving toward decentralization because you offload some of that risk. But if you know how to handle the risk, if you know how to manage the risk, then I think everything is going to be just fine. It really comes down to, do we have the right items? Are we telling the story properly so that, look, instead of buying this new NFT drop, that you buy, one of our NFTs. And again, this is about the maturity in the market, which is something that I've absolutely observed. You know, there's I didn't really meet many digital artists last week. Truly, it feels like more people are working on more sophisticated use cases for NFTs that generate real yield. When you stake your coins, where is the money coming from? The yield, where at some point some of these things just blow up because they have no business processes that it's really justifying what's happening here. So with us, it's about democratizing the marketplace, but in a measured rate. There will come a day where we're going to have multiple vaults and maybe some people self-vaulting and all these types of things. But initially, to protect everyone, there has to be an element of centralization as we move toward decentralization. But I know how much fraud risk exists out there. I've been scammed a bunch of times, and it doesn't get easier each time. You just learn a new lesson about how scams are done. So with all this knowledge, it is my intention to make sure that we prevent these things from happening. When you buy something, if you want it, you will receive it. And if you just want to hold it for a couple months, feel free and you can sell it. We are a speculator's market and we do our best to curate the right items. Um, Maybe Digital Asset News can host you on their show for free. It's a great channel. Oh, I would love that. Could you drop their link maybe in the main group or Digital Asset News, or DM me? So I'll say this also. I have been going through my DMs. I'm you're gonna see I'm gonna get that Telegram Plus or whatever it's called very shortly. I've been making a lot of groups. I've also been blocking people. Okay, if you send me a message and you're like, are you the person in charge of CollectCoin? It's always the same message. Just tell me everything. Hey Paul, what's going on? Sound like a real person, please. And I will respond to you. I'm getting pretty good at responding to folks. If there's anything that you want to share that any insights that you feel like we're not considering, any way that you can help. If you want to participate in some other higher level way and you think you can be an asset to us, message me, message one of the mods, you know. But for the next, till we launch, I'm gonna really try to be on top of Telegram as much as possible. It can get a little overwhelming at times. Um, uh, how do the IRS do the taxes if someone was to sell when the project launches? So I'm not sure what you're referring to. Are you referring to uh so okay, so I guess I'll share something. So if you hold a token for less than 1 year, and when you sell it, it's considered short-term capital gains in America, that's 40%. If it's over a year, it's long-term capital gains, 20%. Um, a lot of that has to do with your off ramps. Like if you off ramp with Coinbase, they'll generate a 1099, and then you have to explain that. Now, again, everybody's situation is different. If you guys do need a tax professional, we are talking to CoinSolve. They want to be our kind of accounting software provider. I know their CEO, Guthrie, so we're talking to them. They're creating kind of some software solutions, and I'd be happy to kind of make an introduction if you guys need some support like that. Um, so, and then in terms of like the assets themselves, that it really it depends. It really depends on a bunch of things. Obviously, where are you located? Are you redeeming anything? Because this is the thing, you know, the only times that we ask you for any personal information is when you ask for redemption. That's when the KYC happens. So if there's no login on our website. You connect your wallet and then you can trade. That's the way it goes. You can have a little icon with your face or whatever you want. Um, the only like doxed wallets are going to be the sellers, so you know who you're buying this from. And then again, like when you redeem something, you got to tell me where is it going? Who are you? Because we have again this we got to fill out the forms. We're partnering with Shippo. They will be our partner. We're using UPS and FedEx master accounts, so there's no mail forwarding. So if any scammers out there are looking at us, you can't forward. And again, like if you try to, it's going to return to sender. Like I've seen these scams before. Um, Maybe at some point we'll do a series where I'll talk about all the different ways how e-commerce scams happen because I know too many of them. And that's kind of shaping how we decide to structure our business. Um, and again, like you know, we're not delaying the project. Let me tell you something. It makes one thing clear. At no point did we say like, oh, let me go take a vacation and like we'll just stop for this period of time. The team is still working. There's a lot more folks than just myself and Nick, and Reiner. We have, 15 people in our Slack that help in various ways. Um, and it's really been through the contribution of the team as a whole. That's why, look, when we launch, there's going to be a page with everybody on it. I don't know how they're going to be visually represented just yet. Everybody knows I don't have a problem showing my face. But I just want to make sure that everybody understands that this is the collective effort of so many folks that we couldn't be here without everybody, really contributing. And look, we're not in great market conditions right now, but I don't think that matters as much because it feels like there's this leveling off. Maybe, you know, in the markets are one thing, but just the sentiment in the greater crypto community, there's so many folks that are looking for investments. I'll tell you what, the traditional finance guys, that's why I really feel like this next bull run is going to be huge because there's so much capital that's like waiting to be deployed. It's just a question of like, can we demonstrate to these individuals that the individuals that are trading crypto have an appetite for this? And I think it's a lot like old school kind of like wealth management. When individuals get a certain amount of money and they attain a certain amount of wealth, how do you protect that? And a lot of times through diversification. So as much as, individuals want to own NFTs from lots of different projects, our project is a little bit different. And I think this kind of diversification is going to be important for everyone's portfolios. Um, So what happens when people get hacked? Will it just be losses? So it depends. So to answer that question, it really depends on the kind of hack. For example, if um if let's just say some massive hack happened and somebody stole all of our NFTs somehow, I don't know how that would happen. And then they tried to massively redeem all of these NFTs. We'd have to take a look at this because look, crypto, the nature of it, it is immutable. But then again, you see some of these situations where I forgot what exchange it was that sent somebody like too many Bitcoin and $10 million, and the woman bought a house and then they were able to sue and get it back. So again, that's an example where I didn't think that was possible, and here it is. So there is a lot of kind of maturity that's going on that makes it so that certain elements of crypto aren't so immutable, that there are some protections in place. And we're trying to do everything we can to protect to everyone. So look, if you have an NFT and it got stolen somehow, or if we did, if we detect some kind of fraud, uh we'll do whatever we can to help you. Like this isn't a, well, sorry, you lose situation. A lot of this is about protecting the community, but again, there's only so much you can do. Like, for example, if you misclick and you want to sell a $10,000 watch and it's $100 and somebody bought it, you know, I don't know how, these are tricky territories. So that's why I encourage everyone, even in our processes, there's multiple times you have to click. You enter the numbers, you click, you approve. It's not a one-click thing. There's maybe 3 or 4 clicks. So you got a few times, and it takes maybe 10, 15 seconds, across everything. Take your
Take
time.
your time. Yeah, there's no going back in crypto. So that's that's the difference. So yeah. Paul, your sound.
Oh, yeah, but if your wallet has been compromised, we can offer you a link to kind of revoke all the permissions that you've given, and we can kind of help guide you through the process. We've done this for honestly a couple dozen people. It makes me kind of sad that this has happened so much, from the early investors to even guys that bought later that have gotten hacked. I'm so sad to see. And this is another thing, if you see a weird link, we're giving away $5,000, something like that. If it's not from one of our mods, or if it's not from Paul that literally says admin or whatever my name says, on Telegram, do not click strange links. Don't connect your wallet. We're never going to ask you to connect your wallet to some strange website. It's going to be CollectCoin or Monaco Market. I don't see any reason why it's going to be somewhere else. So if you're going to some weird website, monacomarket.co, if it's like Monaco Market dot something else and it looks weird, say, hey guys, say something in the main chat. I have an iPad that literally just kind of streams the chat. I'm on calls a lot, so I can't always answer, but ask a question. Don't worry, we'll get to it for sure. Um, and I'm so sorry that people are getting hacked. I just exercise caution as much as you can. Never give anyone your seed phrase. Nobody. You know, if anyone ever impersonating me, Nick, Reiner, or any of the moderators asks you, hey, I need 1 ETH. Can you send me 1 ETH? What do I need 1 ETH for? What could I possibly need this for that I'm asking somebody? So also please use a little bit of common sense in the fact that, like, I'm not asking anybody for money. I promise you that is never going to happen. If we're doing some kind of official raise, it's going to be on chain. It's not going to be me asking people to borrow 2 ETH or something weird. Um, so just know that, keep your funds to yourself until we kind of give you something for you to spend it on, or to buy. And again, hopefully as much as we can, we're going to try to keep everyone safe. Um, any questions from the community? Anything else? A couple guys are typing. By the way, Yeah, so absolutely. So we actually have a whole redesign plan for the Monaco market. Um, that is exactly something that's been on my mind. You know, what you're referring to here, how we had this sale, we sold it up to 14 cents, and so the new website will probably drop some teasers, at some point, to give people an idea, um, of what, like that video just kind of shows the branding, but I mean, the entire look, the feel, the user experience is going to be massively different than what you're seeing here. So, and that's for Monaco Market, definitely CollectCoin, like we're rolling out these websites. It's a lot of work. It's going to be very robust. Right now, Monaco Market is at one page, it's really, there's not a lot going on there, but these new ones there's a lot of pages, a lot of content. We explain the process. We want to make sure that if anyone comes off, just randomly finds a Monaco Market, they can learn everything they need to from all the materials that they have there. Will guide you through the process, obviously show you how everything works, include links to Medium articles with visual aids to kind of help guide folks. So there's a lot of content that we're, kind of aggregating to make sure that when we launch, everything kind of stands on its own. Um, okay, so the plan to popularize, actually, so we've been working on this, kind of our go-to-market strategy. What does that look like? Whether it's talking to some influencers that have crypto leaning, but maybe not the same kind of guys we've used in the past. Because I do think that one of the reasons why we're building this platform so that anyone can use it, like, hey, a credit card fiat on ramp on the website. We're talking to two companies right now. Um, Waiting for the onboarding process. Man, some of these guys, I feel like they're so inundated with so many projects that they take forever. But the intention is to also have a credit card on ramp so individuals can buy their items. But it's to make sure that, well, one, through influencers that are in the categories that we're dealing with, leveraging the reach of the sellers that we're dealing with. And these are pretty significant size sellers, using press releases and other like print media as well as digital campaigns, to kind of on crypto related uh, publications to make sure that we get some reach as well as some traditional ones, because you need to have a mixed approach. And some people in crypto might say, I don't want to buy something it's gonna take me a year to make 20%. But you know what? We saw what happened with Anchor Protocol. People were mortgaging their houses to buy some of these things, and it's rather to invest their money. And while I don't encourage anyone to do that with our items, I mean there were some items last year, that physical items that you tripled up. I made 10x on a baseball card. I mean, that's a really, odd edge case, but these things occur, and it's our job to find them so that when you buy them, there's still upside left in it. I'm not trying to sell guys things at the top of the market. There's still got to be a lot of growth opportunity. And, we're talking to some charting companies also that have indexed a lot of data so that maybe we can integrate that into the listing so you can see, where has this item gone so far? Where do you anticipate it's going to go? And look, it feels like every crypto trader can read the charts and maybe they'll see, hey, this look like there's higher lows happening. Maybe this is like an uptrend. So we have a mixed kind of marketing approach. And again, part of this is going to be us leveraging the social medias of all these different companies that we're dealing with, whether they're authentication partners, dealer partners, influencers, and all the other media that we're talking to kind of come together for what is likely going to be maybe like a month long, well, that's a month leading into the launch, and then obviously thereafter, because once the ball gets rolling, you've got to keep creating content around what we've done, what we're releasing, the items, and even what we're planning to release. So, previewing different features in a way where I do think that we're going to be able to stay ahead of our competitors and just make sure that we're not giving them some secret sauce. I see that QuickChain is raising his hand. I'd like to invite you to speak. QuickChain, can you hear me? QuickChain?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Fantastic. How are you doing, brother?
I'm fine. and I just have this concern about not knowing what's going on,
No,
because you guys have been working hard, doing everything to get things working, but without waiting for like this kind of what do they call it, MA or stuff like that, people to ask questions. If there is say summary of what people can expect in like period of time, it will give some people that the progress has been made at this like the specific time. People will try to like know what is going on than waiting for this kind of like this kind of section. Like I've been here like 1 year plus now. I'm just like
I
curious
know.
to be like, I want to know everything. Like it's not everything like that, but I just want to know this kind of period, this is going to happen, this is going to happen, than waiting for this kind of section. It's
Of course.
more okay.
Absolutely. So, I think what we'll likely do is from now until the launch, there'll probably be a couple more of these AMAs. I definitely, or at the very least, I'll come on and maybe I'll drop a video just kind of giving you guys an idea of what's going on, and I'll hang out in the chat for a little while. Uh, Sometimes for me, I'll see someone ask a question, and if there's like no mod that's answering it right away, I'll sometimes hop in and answer it. But I know also that sometimes I start answering questions and then a bunch of folks are asking me things. And then like I'll be on a call and trying not to be rude to whomever I'm speaking to. But it's it's definitely the kind of thing where there's never enough hours in the day for us to be able to like do everything. And I'm really kind of hands-on. So, if it's a cybersecurity call or the dev calls, I'm on design calls and I'm just listening and just learning. So, um, it's definitely a lot, but I do want you guys to know
You guys
that,
know that.
well,
Go ahead. Yeah. I think to that point is for us to, while we love to be really hands-on and we've been very nimble and financially mindful of our budget and stuff, as far as scaling, we can't continue to operate like this forever. And so we're really looking to, as part of the strategy is to really kind of have a better situation, having additional support that can kind of help alleviate a lot of the stress I think Paul's talking about, and just so we can focus in our areas a little bit more on scale.
Yeah. So I think that's good. I think move forward there will be proper things to look forward to. Like this okay. So I'm just curious. Like I want to know 100%. Like I cannot wait for this kind of good project. That's why
no,
I have
trust
the
me,
thought.
I'm anxious as well, just as much as everyone else. I can't wait to launch because, what I'm good at is the scaling part, making sure that we have the items that, you know, like one thing, I don't know if we've ever talked about this, but I guess I can kind of share it, is that one aspect of the business that we're going to do is to take on a little bit of risk with some of the items. Because look, I've been doing this for years. I can get these items, not like, again, I can do so in a way where Monaco Market can take a little bit of risk. Uh, we're getting it from a primary source. Okay, all of my sources aren't secondary sources, so we can include an original receipt, do third-party authentications, and all these things, and make sure that we're also making money a little bit in that way. Because come on, man, the fees that we get from the transaction fees, the fees that we get from the redemptions, it may not be enough, but if we're able to do conservative, my conservative number is $1 million in just items from Monaco Market that we own, that we're selling. I think that's an extreme. That's if we only did $1 million, I think I would be hurt because I can do $1 million by myself. So with this team, we should be able to do significant volume of just the Monaco Market items that we procure. Now, adding in the items from the sellers, look, I expect our volume to be significant. We're going through some projections, and I'm very
I'm
good.
very good. You turn off the sound.
I think no, I think hold on one second. Okay, can you guys hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you guys hear me?
No, I think someone has their microphone off. If you can just turn it off while Paul's talking. Great.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. So yeah, so I was just saying that like the kinds of items that we're offering, some of them will be us procuring the items because look, if there's a built-in 20 or 30% margin and we're still able to offer to you below market so that people can trade a little, we're gonna do that. We're here to make sure that one, the right items enter the ecosystem at the right prices and wherever possible, where we see opportunities to provide value to our stakeholders, we're going to be able to do that. So there's a mixed kind of approach that we're kind of going through right now. But I'm very, very excited. I'm very bullish on what we're going to be able to accomplish and just the different avenues that we're going to be able to make money and scale this. It's going to be very exciting. It just takes a little bit longer for us to launch. Um, I guess with that said, we wanted to do an hour. It's a little bit more. Are there any other questions before we may wrap this up? Give a few moments. Anything? And mind you, to the whole community, anyone watching this, if you have a suggestion, if you have a lead that can help us in some way, or some exciting partner that you think could work with Monaco Market, because that's another thing. When I was at Mainnet, I found like the payment solution provider through one of our investors. He said, "Hey, these guys are working on something really cool. You should take a look." And then they demoed the product, and I thought, wow, if this actually works the way that it's being demoed, this is going to be, I think, maybe a better option than some of the ones that are currently existing. Oh man, the new branding, it's really cool. I'm really excited. But yeah, so feel free to let us know, communicate. I'm gonna try to do a little bit of chit chat in the evenings, maybe in the group, so you might see me there. Um, and just try to connect with the community as much as possible. Uh, I am going to more live events. I'm trying to make my evenings available for that. Like this week, there's SmartCon. Last week was Mainnet. So I'll be going to some events on Wednesday and Thursday, and continuing this. Like if they're in New York, I'm going to make sure I'm there and trying to meet as many folks as possible to establish really high level connections for us. And sometimes you can work with folks, sometimes you can't. But just establishing a strong network, I think, is going to be very critical for us as we scale. Because as much as we can do marketing and people hear about us, sometimes it's somebody connecting our hands to another person or another company that will take us to that next level. And yeah, again, if you have any questions, feel free to drop it in the chat afterward. I will be around probably maybe like 2.5 hours. I think there's a few calls, and then again, we have a bit of work that we have to finish up. But again, we're just really happy to have the more support of the community. And just know that we are getting ever closer to the launch of this marketplace with some really cool items that everybody's going to be able to buy, and you will get exactly what you paid for. So if nothing else, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today, for viewing, and for supporting us. Nick?
Yep. Thank you. That's great, Paul. Thanks everyone for joining. We'll talk to you soon.